History of the United States pre-Columbian and colonial foundations. Before 1776. The story of America begins with indigenous peoples who inhabited North America for thousands of years, developing sophisticated civilizations like the ancestral Puebloans, the Mississippian culture, and the Iroquois Confederacy. European colonization began in earnest in the early 1600s, with English settlements at Jamestown, 1607, and Plymouth, 1620, followed by Dutch, French, and Spanish colonies throughout the continent. The 13 English colonies developed distinct regional characteristics while sharing common experiences of self-governance, religious diversity, and economic growth. However, this prosperity was built partly on the tragic foundation of slavery, as hundreds of thousands of Africans were forcibly brought to work on plantations. By the mid-17th century, growing tensions between Britain and the colonists over taxation and representation set the stage for revolution. Revolution and Early Republic, 1776 to 1840. The Declaration of Independence in 1776 proclaimed that all men are created equal and launched an 8-year war for independence. George Washington's leadership and French support proved crucial to American victory, culminating in the Treaty of Paris, 1783, that recognized American independence. The new nation struggled under the weak Articles of Confederation until the Constitutional Convention of 1787 created a stronger federal system with checks and balances. The Bill of Rights protected individual liberties, while the new government under Presidents Washington, Adams, Jefferson, and their successors established crucial precedents for democratic governance. The Louisiana Purchase, 1803, doubled the nation's size, while the War of 1812 confirmed American independence from British influence. This period saw the emergence of political parties, westward expansion, and growing tensions over slavery's future. Expansion and division, 1840 to 1865. The concept of manifest destiny drove massive westward expansion, leading to the Mexican-American War, 1846 to 1848, and the acquisition of California and the Southwest. The California Gold Rush and westward migration displaced indigenous peoples while intensifying debates over slavery in new territories. Economic transformation included the Industrial Revolution, massive immigration from Europe, and the development of railroads and telegraph systems. Reform movements addressed social problems, including abolitionism, women's rights, and education, while the Second Great Awakening brought religious revival. Growing sectional tensions over slavery led to political crises, including the Missouri Compromise of 1850, and Kansas-Nebraska Act. The election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860 triggered Southern secession and the Civil War, 1861 to 1865, which preserved the Union, ended slavery, but cost over 600,000 lives. Industrial growth and global emergence, 1865 to 1920. Reconstruction, 1865 to 1877, attempted to rebuild the South and protect African American rights, but ultimately failed, leading to Jim Crow segregation that would last nearly a century. The Gilded Age brought unprecedented economic growth, industrialization, and the rise of corporate titans like Carnegie and Rockefeller. Massive immigration from Southern and Eastern Europe diversified American society while providing labor for expanding industries. The closing of the Western frontier marked the end of one era, while the Spanish-American War, 1898, signaled America's emergence as a world power with overseas territories. The Progressive Era, 1890s to 1920s, brought reforms addressing corporate power, working conditions, women's suffrage, and social problems. World War I, 1917 to 1918, established America as a global power, though post-war disillusionment led to isolationism and the Red Scare. Depression, war, and superpower status, 1920 to 1950. The Roaring Twenties brought prosperity, cultural revolution, and technological advancement, symbolized by automobiles, radio, and movies. However, the stock market crash of 1929 triggered the Great Depression, the worst economic crisis in American history. Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal, 1933 to 1939, created Social Security, federal jobs programs, and financial regulations that established the modern welfare state and expanded federal government power. These programs helped restore confidence while fundamentally changing American expectations about government's role. World War II, 1941 to 1945, ended the Depression and established America as the world's dominant superpower. The war required massive mobilization while revealing both American strength and persistent prejudices, exemplified by Japanese-American internment. Victory left America as the only major power with its territory unscathed and its economy booming. Cold War and Civil Rights, 1950 to 1990. The Cold War conflict with the Soviet Union dominated American foreign policy for 4 decades, leading to interventions in Korea, Vietnam, and other regions, while spurring massive defense spending and technological advancement, including the space program. Domestically, the 1950s brought suburban prosperity and conformity, but the civil rights movement challenged racial segregation. Key events included Brown versus Board of Education, 1954, the Montgomery bus boycott, and Martin Luther King Jr.'s leadership of nonviolent resistance. The Civil Rights Acts of 1964 and 1965 dismantled legal segregation. The 1960s witnessed unprecedented social upheaval, including youth rebellion, the counterculture, women's liberation, and environmental awareness. The Vietnam War sparked massive protests and deepened social divisions, while assassinations of John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr. traumatized the nation. The 1970s brought crises including Watergate, oil embargoes, and economic stagflation that undermined confidence in government and institutions. Ronald Reagan's conservative revolution, 1980s, promoted free market economics and military buildup while helping to end the Cold War. Contemporary America, 1990 to present. The Soviet Union's collapse in 1991 left America as the world's sole superpower, leading to military interventions in the Persian Gulf, Balkans, and elsewhere. The 1990s brought economic expansion fueled by technological innovation, particularly the Internet revolution. The September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks launched the War on Terror, including invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq, while expanding security measures and presidential power. The 2008 financial crisis required massive government intervention and highlighted growing economic inequality. Barack Obama's election as the first African-American president, 2008, represented historic progress, though his presidency faced intense partisan opposition. The Affordable Care Act expanded healthcare coverage while generating fierce political debate. Donald Trump's presidency, 2017 to 2021, challenged traditional political norms while reflecting deep cultural and political divisions. The COVID-19 pandemic beginning in 2020 created the worst public health crisis in a century, while the January 6, 2021, Capitol attack raised concerns about democratic stability. Ongoing challenges in American resilience. Today's America faces numerous challenges, including political polarization, economic inequality, climate change, technological disruption, and questions about democracy's future. However, the nation's history demonstrates remarkable capacity for renewal and reform during times of crisis. The American experiment in democratic self-government continues to evolve, drawing on founding principles of equality and freedom while struggling to fulfill these ideals for all citizens. Despite persistent problems and divisions, America's diversity, democratic institutions, and tradition of peaceful change provide foundations for addressing contemporary challenges. The American story remains unfinished, with each generation facing the ongoing challenge of creating a more perfect union while adapting eternal principles to changing circumstances. The nation's history suggests that while progress is neither inevitable nor easy, Americans have repeatedly demonstrated the ability to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles through democratic action and commitment to human dignity.